Hello and welcome to Shadowdark Tales from the Smoke, Episode 2, yet to be titled due to the fact that who knows what this marvellous group of players are going to do today. Without further ado, hi, I'm Andy from Twisted Narrative. I'll be your game master tonight. Let us do some quick introductions, both of who you are in the real world. If this was Cyberpunk, I would say meat space, and who you are playing in the game tonight. We'll start off with Fliss.
Yeah, I feel like you always start with me, Andy. Good evening. I'm
Uh,
Fliss. I always go first, but not always in the initiative order. I'm a player in some of Andy's regular games. Really enjoy all flavors of tabletop role-playing game. Really enjoying Shadowdark, where I'm playing Eliara, who is a level 1 thief with 1 hit point.
you keep mentioning that. I mean, does it really
I,
matter? 1 hit points
I'm.
or 4 hit points?
I suppose that's right.
Who's counting, really?
We're all inches from death at any moment.
This is what I love about this game, this we will be using, just as a reminder, pulp rules. So I'll come on to that in a minute. But even so, even with pulp, it's on a knife's edge all of the time, and I think that's part of the thrill of this system. Okay, we'll move down to you, Brian.
Hi, I'm Brian. I usually go last, including in initiative order, because I'm playing Hector, the failed magician's apprentice from the Potter's Guild, and he has a dexterity of 6.
Right, but again, we don't need to do skill checks. Well, there isn't even skills in Shadowdark, ability checks. Well, only when it's in real danger, and then you do, and then a 6 is not going to be much help. But we'll look forward to that. Then we'll cycle round kind of anti-clockwise to Kyle.
Good evening, I'm Kyle. I've been role-playing primarily 5e, but really enjoying branching out into other systems, particularly Shadowdark. Tonight I'll be playing Gideon, a somewhat charming thief that only knows how to use his mouth, that's about it.
Well, yeah, I mean, you did very well last session. It was, I thought I was being a little bit hard with the DC on that challenge, and you smashed it. Goes to show. Weaponized charisma, as some people call it. It was a pleasure to see, and I like the dice telling a tale. And then last but not least, we have Malcolm.
Thank you, Andy. Good evening, all. Very much enjoying Shadowdark in all its flavours. Have tried a couple of different versions of Andy's running games. You might recognise me from the Junkers episode that we broadcast. Tonight I'll be playing Valrond, an elven priest. She tries to be a little light in the darkness, a very dangerous darkness.
Yeah, indeed, the shadow darkness. So a little bit of admin before we get going. Hopefully you viewers like to see the mechanical side of it as well as the roleplay aspect. So Shadowdark has got a number of modes of play, and for this, because we want it to be a campaign, we want to give at least a chance of some of these characters surviving against all of the odds. So we'll be playing pulp mode. Now, we're not necessarily playing pulp mode throughout the entirety of the campaign. If the characters go to a very dangerous area, we might choose a different mode to mix it all up. So we'll keep that. Pulp mode means there is no maximum luck points or luck tokens a player can have. Players start every session with 1d4 luck tokens. You can use a luck token to turn a hit into a critical hit. You can use a luck token to take an extra action. This is something I don't think any of you did last session. And you can use a luck token to force the GM to re-roll a dice. And I'm absolutely fine for you using luck to re-roll critical fails. These are finite resources, just like the light and everything else. So absolutely use your luck. It will probably keep you alive for a little bit longer. But what I said off screen is it is a resource, you can't stack it. So we'll start off the game with seeing how much luck you are starting tonight's session with. I'm going to say, Malcolm, I'm going to go clockwise this time. Do you want to give us a D4 roll and let us see what you get? Is that a 3?
That is a 3. I'm
Okay,
happy
so
with 3 luck tokens.
3 luck tokens. Kyle, would you like to give us a roll, please?
Okay.
2. And just like I did in Junkers, I am tracking your luck. Brian, would you like to give us a roll, please? That's a 3 as no, it's a 4 actually, isn't it?
Excellent.
Yeah, well done. And then last but not least, Fliss, what do you?
All right, Andy, I'm going to try my luck.
Yeah. Oh dear, that is a 1.
That went about as well as it possibly could.
Now, there could be some kind of argument here.
Well, I was going to say, can I spend my luck to reroll my luck?
Oh, go on.
Go on then.
It'll be especially funny if she rolls
We have
another
one
one.
hit point, Andy.
I do. Yeah. I believe that's another 1. I've got a special big red button here that controls all of the dice rolls. So, look, I tried.
I'll work with it. I'll make it work. It's fine.
I tried. Okay, so without further ado, luck made. We do find our protagonists, our wannabe heroes, starting off on their career from the more mundane and apprentices, loading boats, some skullduggery, trying to make a name for themselves. They had their first big score, being interviewed, being contacted by a doe, the fixers of the City of the Smoke, to give them their first real job. Some of the characters already knew each other, others had only met for the first time. This task was to head down to locate the workshops of one Dr. Payne, an individual that has been arrested for doing terrible, unethical experiments and dabbling in chimeromancy, the stitching of flesh, of making something new out of 2 other creatures, 3 other creatures, multiple other creatures, causing great pain, hence his name, or perhaps his name is just Payne. Specifically, though, the doe wanted you to deal with any kind of opposition that would cross your path, but also your job really was to recover his journals. And as is the way with does, no real questions could be asked about where the journal is going to be passed to. But you are very confident that if you succeed in this, you will be very well compensated for your time. Using the resources at hand, you contacted a beggar, Flo, who was more than happy to help you find and put you in touch with a couple of ratters in the sewers, who then took you to the location of the workshop. Here, things got dark, really dark, much darker than the smog-filled streets of the Smoke. You opened the secret door into the workshop and moved forward. You rapidly encountered some of his creations, these monster-mashed goblins with multiple faces, multiple arms. Not the smartest of creatures, as Gideon managed to weaponize his charisma, as we said, and confuse them, confound them, and give them orders that the crew here was actually working for Dr. Payne. Bemused, they let you pass. You rapidly came to another chamber, your light running low, and seeing there was some kind of chemical slime trail moving from the east to the south. You decided to follow it to the south. You still haven't explored the east. And there you heard some kind of large, brutish voice talking to itself and occasionally taking bites out of something. As the light moved round the corner, it noticed it and it noticed you, and the horror of the thing before you became only too apparent. A creature that had been stitched together from a number of humanoid body parts, large, brutish, humanoid in design though, but even more disturbing. A large number of smashed jars around him with half-eaten brains. He had one in his hand and he was munching it, discarding it, picking up a large saw that looks quite capable of easily cutting through bone. He charged at you. It was very cut and thrust. It was very close at one point, a large, brutal swing, just missing Val, smashing into the wall. Hector, you charged in some kind of fury, shield raised, knocking this thing to the floor, and the rest of you made very quick work of it. Val entering some kind of rage and brutally putting an end to this terrifying creature. I think at this point your light had just extinguished and you managed to rapidly get another one up. So what I'm going to do is, it is Shadowdark, I'm going to start a timer for an hour as the light is recast. So okay, I'm just doing this. We'll go to timers and we will start now. You haven't had a chance to do much else to search the room or even this individual. You have, though, made a large amount of noise, the crashing, the sounds of battle. But for now, though, you seem to be alone together. I would like you all to sort of roll initiatives. This is not for combat. This is another mechanic of Shadowdark. What I'm going to do is going to say whoever has the highest initiative, we're just going to move clockwise around, so it doesn't really matter. So everybody roll initiative and we'll see who's got the highest.
Andy, can you remind us, do we add our dexterity modifier to this?
I believe so, yes.
Yes.
So someone's just rolled a 12. That is looking like it's probably going to be the highest.
That would be me, but I'm at -2.
Okay, so has anybody beat a 10 with modifiers?
I think so.
So Hector, I mean, you take the lead in this. We're going to run it
That works.
fairly rallying, basically. I don't want to impede the roleplay aspect of it as well, but you can do kind of one main thing and have a little bit of a move as you catch your breath. I think at the moment you probably just pulled yourself up off this creature, but tell me, what are you going to do?
I look down at this thing and I'm absolutely repulsed by it. I look over at Val, who's probably coming down off this berserk religious fury, and I'm put off by that. But time is wasting, and I'm going to move about the room as quickly as possible, searching amongst the jars and things on the shelves, looking for something that smells flammable, if possible.
Okay. Yes, I mean, the whole of this area is a fire hazard, I think you could call it. The smashed jars seem to have had some chemicals in, something that is probably some kind of preservative. You're no expert, but it could be flammable. You're aware that some of you might actually have flasks of oil on you as well. As you move across this floor, the scant light sort of letting you survey this room properly. It is probably what Dr. Payne used as a sitting room. You do notice there is a door leading to the west. It's closed. There is the smell of chemicals here now. There's the crunch of glass as you move around the room from all of the shattered jars. Doesn't cut through your boots. You're absolutely fine. But if you were barefooted, this would certainly cut into your feet. There doesn't seem to be any books or shelves here. It seems to be a place for contemplation, a place for relaxing more than anything else. So did you want to try and scoop up some of this glass or some of this liquid? There are kind of partially complete jars that have got sediment of this liquid in.
I'm going to leave that for a moment. I'll just look back at the corpse of the abomination and go, I want to burn that when we're done.
Yeah.
But I'll move over to a door and take a listen.
Okay.
So
So
that's
I mean,
where I'll leave it for now.
yeah, that's excellent. And as you turn your eye back, you don't know whether it's the flickering torchlight, but even with the head of this monstrosity caved in, brutally smashed via the mace of Val, the thing seems to still be twitching, just slightly, almost as if it is still alive, but it couldn't be. And with that, we move to you, Ellie. It is Ellie, isn't it?
It's Ellie. I think Ellie would have a quick glance, move into the room because she was hiding behind the wall. So move into the room and have a quick check with Valrond. Just make eye contact, make sure Val looks okay, unharmed.
This thing was not undead, so you just see blood dripping down Val's face, almost like tears.
Does it look like it's Val's blood?
No, not at all. But it's just sort of dripping.
Yeah, she's covered. Okay. I will shrug that off and just try and do a quick sweep of the room in terms of checking the furniture and the walls and anything like that for any hidden compartments, secret openings, anything like that might contain an important book.
Yeah, that makes sense, and you use your turn having a proper look. You give it a thorough look through, and the only thing that you really sort of find is down the back of the sofa. There's a few copper pieces that have fallen out. Copper is copper at the end of the day, and you can easily sort of put that to you probably pocket it yourself, but all loot goes to the players because that's the design of the game. But yeah, you give it a very thorough search with your description. There doesn't seem to be a place that he would have kept such an item. Maybe actually a proper workshop, or maybe a library or something else is.
She doesn't have much of a clue about that. But
yeah. Books.
She'll let everyone know the book's not here. I think we need to keep moving as quick as we can.
Yeah, that's very good. So we move across to Val.
Val is taking a moment, almost in reflection of her own actions. Might surprise herself how ferocious she responded to such a beast of a creature. Wants to take the time of this turn to wash the worst of the blood off her hands and face.
Yeah.
If there's anything that's not a corrosive liquid to hand between that and whatever few scraps of rags she can spare.
Yep. It's wet, so it's fairly easy to sort of wipe off. And to be honest, it's dark as well. I should imagine it's more of a tactile thing that you're keen to do rather than a visual thing. But you remove most of it, and you reflect upon what has just happened, taking a deep breath or so. Excellent. Yeah, you happy with that? So then we move to Gideon. I believe you are currently, just as a reminder to the group and to chat, the torchbearer.
So I'm going to Well, the fluid came from the tunnel behind us going to the east. And if he's been carrying brains over from that sort of direction, and I'm guessing that's where the workshop is, do we want to head back that way, or should we check out the door while we're here?
Makes sense to have a look around before we move on, I think, just in
Yep.
case there's any nasties.
Okay, then Gideon's going to go over to the door. Probably going to check it out, see if it's locked.
Yep. So the first thing that you do notice as you sort of move to the door is it is indeed locked. You kind of try it.
Well, a beggar's a beggar. I'm going to go over to the corpse and start looking it over to see if it has a key or anything on it.
Yeah, as part of all of this action, it's relatively easy for you to do. And you do indeed find sort of there's a set of keys in a pouch. It seems that he is the key holder, whether he was officially the key holder or not. He has a large set of keys, and they seem to be apparently for this workshop. So that is where we will leave you. You've kind of moved around a little bit, checked the door, and located the keys. Again, they weren't hidden, no real roll needed. You have a set of keys now. The keys do count as a gear slot, though. They are a big set of keys that you want to attach to you. Do you have space for those?
Yes, I do.
Cool. Excellent. Then we move back to Hector.
Seeing this, I'm imagining a big iron ring of keys
Yeah.
with probably lots of keys on them. And Hector looks at the keys and goes, "Gonna take too long, and I'm going to try and kick the door in."
Okay. This is interesting because if you make noise, you draw attention to yourself.
We
But
kind of did that already.
yeah, I totally agree. I totally agree. So what I want, because this is a locked door, it is a contest. So I would like you to give me a strength check. It's not particularly a reinforced door, so we're going to say simply a 10 that you're going to need. Yeah. How would you like to do this?
Just square up to it and kick it open.
Yeah, you've maybe done this a few times before. It's not your first door kicking. And the wood splinters where the lock is. It gives way and it creeps open. A scant amount of light from Gideon's torch sort of moves in, and well, it looks possibly promising. You see that there are walls with bookshelves on. There is a small table, not a low table, but a small table in the centre of the room. There is indeed a single candlestick with a candle in as well. And it looks like a study of sorts, not a grand library, but certainly a study. So you've used your action to open the door. Yep. You can either move in with your move, or you can wait for the others to move first. It doesn't appear like there's any noise coming from it.
Having kicked the door down, I will step to one side to make room for others, so that if anyone wants to go through, I'm not in the way.
Okay, Ellie.
Ellie's going to have a quick listen.
Yeah, as I say, you
Any
don't
response
really
to the door? No.
You don't, so I listen to see if anything's coming. I've got you. Thank you for reminding me, actually, because
is anything coming, Andy?
I don't know.
Yeah, you gotta roll some dice.
What I've got to do is do this. Let's see, 10. What does a 10 mean? You don't know, because I've got my own random tables here. You can't hear anything, so if something is coming, it's creeping quietly towards you.
Brilliant. The person with 1 hit point is not probably the person who's going to go marching straight into
I
this
have
empty
no
room.
idea what these hit points are, but you're feeling frail, I guess.
I am not. I'm. She's very, very scaredy and cautious. So not gonna go into that room until she gets an all clear. Is there? I know that Gideon turned the Igor for keys. Did his pockets get checked? Perchance?
Yeah. But basically, it was a total thing.
It was a full pat down.
In Shadowdark, there's no real trickery. It's like if you search something, you search it and you get to know everything they've got.
Fine. What about the saw? Does the saw look like anything
Saw
worth
is
having?
not. It's heavy, and it's. I mean, to
Not
call it
strength of 6.
Yeah.
No.
to call it a surgical instrument is perhaps anatomically correct, but not really for doing delicate surgery. It's quite a large saw. In fact, it looks like it normally takes 2 people, one either side, like a big wood saw to go. So this thing is not necessarily for sort of humanoid size things. This is for something much bigger.
I would like to attempt to set a trap, a noise-making kind of trap, not a damaging kind of trap, in the corridor that we came down.
Perfect.
Maybe utilising the saw and a few other things that are
Yeah.
in the room, just to see if anybody does come. Hopefully, we get a little bit of warning.
I'm gonna ask you. You can easily do this, being a thief. Just quickly setting something up. It will be of the kind of lowest level sort of trap, though. Or I'll let you roll and see if you can make it somewhat more complex. You will have advantage on this because you are a thief.
Player, I would love to roll.
Okay, so
do I roll with
2d20?
And with my dex modifier or not? Okay.
As you start constructing this clever trap. That's going to be
18?
Quite nice. Yeah, this is quite a complex thing. And that is going to set the DC of someone wanting to try and avoid it. So, well done for making the roll. So, you're fairly confident now that if anything comes down this way, you're going to be alerted to them, which is a bonus, really. That is going to be your action, though. So, we'll move round to Val.
Seeing that the door to the next room has been opened, Val, again, one last steadying breath, nods in the direction of Hector. I'm okay, I'm still me, and wanders by him into the room.
Okay, so you move not into the dark, not into the Shadowdark, but into the shadows, as Gideon's torch is still a distance away, and but you can see, and it's pretty much as I've described it so far. A table, relatively small. There's only a singular chair at the table, as you're kind of doing, and there are bookshelves with books. You can just catch a few of the titles, and they seem to be all about anatomy, about biology, about nature and surgery. Are you taking any actions when you go into the room?
Yeah, I'd give the desk a thorough look over, looking for his personal journal. Maybe it's in a drawer. Maybe there's a package under the desk, so like taped to the bottom of it as it would be. So yeah, I want to make sure that there is nothing left behind on the desk, and I think that'd be a fair action.
Unfortunately, it's a table, not a desk.
Oh,
that's okay. No. I love the way that things can get misconstrued. But yeah, it's just literally this flat table, but it might represent some kind of challenge. And as you begin to sort of see if there's any kind of secret sort of panels to it or anything else, you see that the table itself is ink stained, and your eyes sort of carry down, and you can see that some ink's been spilt onto the floor as well. Just about you could really do with Gideon's torch in here as your eyes kind of strain in the dark. But then, because you've searched, you do notice something. Where one of the table legs is, there's sort of a flagstone, a cobblestone, really, that looks unusual, and you realise that it's loose. It's not really loose and rocking about, but it definitely looks like it could come out.
I would wait for better light and conditions before attempting anything.
Yeah, I mean your full turn fundamentally was like that
Yep.
that thorough search, and again in Shadowdark you spent your time doing this, so you reap the rewards. There's nothing that I've hidden from you, and there's no need to particularly ask for perception rolls because that's not how this game works. We move to Gideon.
Okay, Gideon is going to follow in, and would it be an action to use the torch to light the candle?
I mean, you can sort of do that. It would probably be that kind of action. I mean, it is up to you. Mechanically speaking, it will give you light in this room, and it will give you light until that candle burns down. So if you were to leave, but you couldn't extinguish your torch now. Once the torch is lit, it's kind of lit. So it's not going to buy you any more time.
Not after time. I'm more after a light source in the centre of the room, so we can focus the torch in other places if we need to.
Yeah, I like that. That sounds very solid, and I will take that. More light is definitely a good thing. So you ignite the candle and light fills this chamber, both from the torch and from the candle, making it substantially easier to pick up any kind of details that perhaps you might want to see. Then we move to Hector.
I'm just going to take my turn standing sentinel at the door in case anything comes at us.
Okay, that sounds good. Sentinel mode, Overwatch. We move to Ellie.
Ellie squeaks and scurries into the library room because once again she's been left in the dark.
It's not so much. Yeah, I mean it's theatre of the mind. There is still some light, but absolutely, it's kind of. Oh,
she's usually at the back.
Yeah, absolutely.
So she'll pop in and perhaps seeing Valrant indicating to this flagstone, she'll go down there and just see if there's any way to kind of lever it up.
Okay, yeah.
Down there, perhaps checking if it's trapped or dangerous in any way.
I do like that. Words are very important. As you sort of, it's kind of almost like you've seen a beautiful sort of scone or scone, depending on which part of the country you come from, in a really hot oven, and you kind of see it. Val kind of indicates, and you go to grab it, and then you feel the heat of the oven and sort of wait there, and you begin to have your sharp eyes upon this cobblestone a little bit more, and indeed it is actually trapped, saving yourself a fair amount of trouble there. Because you've noticed it, you specifically said you were trying to search for this. It's easy enough for you to disable once you have noticed.
Can I work out what it would have done?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's quite clever. There is set into the cobble a little bit of flint, and if you had pulled it out, the flint would have scratched the stone. It would have caused a spark, and there is some kind of powder or charge in there that would have. And being so fragile and frail as you are,
I would have died. Yeah.
So you carefully sort of pick this out without causing it to spark, and you see in the bottom, unfortunately, no journal, but there is a pouch, and it jingle has quite a few coins in it.
Yoinky yoinky.
I mean, everybody's watching you, so it's going to be nigh on impossible for you
Just hang on to these for later.
Yeah, absolutely. But the jingle, are you going to look in the pouch at the kind of coins?
Yeah,
Or
quick. Well, or can I tell from the heft? Or no, I
uh,
need to have a quick look.
it's probably worth. These are cogs, so these are gold pieces. In the smoke, just a little bit of lore. The inhabitants of the smoke are called gold pieces, cogs. And there are probably close to 10 of these. It's a very good find, 10 gold pieces. I say, unfortunately, not quite what you were looking after, but coin is coin. Um, so that will, whoever wants to hold on to it, because it does equate to 1 gear slot.
That's it.
Yes.
I thought coins up to a value of 100 or something.
Is that right? Have I got that wrong?
I believe the
Your first
100
100 coins are effectively free.
All right. So you're okay then. I just assumed that you had sucked all of the coins from this dungeon into your pack already.
I haven't found them yet, but I will.
So there is a lesson to be learned here, players that are watching. Make sure you read the rules because the GM sometimes gets it wrong. So you've got 10 gold pieces, which is a fair amount. I feel that you might have been baiting me to say, well, it's 100 gold pieces, then it fills up a slot. But I'm not going to be baited. I'm not going to be baited into that.
Ooh.
Nice try. But you can also, if you want to, not necessarily on your turn or someone else can do it, you've stopped the trap from functioning, but you can take the components of the trap as well if you want to spend even more time doing that.
Where on earth are we going to put the gunpowder? Andy?
Yeah. No.
Nobody's got a gear slot.
well, actually,
Okay, go on, Gideon.
So that was your turn, Ellie. Anyway, very
Yes,
well
you.
done, and that could have been quite dangerous. So we move to Valrond.
Valron can now breathe again, having recognised the potential spark and explosion under her face. Recognising that Ellie has performed the correct ministrations, we might say, is happy to search the one wall's worth of bookcase over time. Again, we're looking for the journal of, the handwriting of.
Yeah.
We had a particularly good description from the Doe around what the journal might look like, on the outside at least. Because if I recall, we were asked not to read it.
Yeah, kind of. Sort of. It was kind of suggested that you don't look in it. They don't want to keep it secret, but they obviously want to make sure they get the right thing as well. So you spend some time, your turn, kind of looking through all of these books. None of them look like the journal. Some of them look fairly interesting. You could, if you want, cherry pick one or two of these books. They will count as gear, but one or two of them are actually worth a fair amount of coin. But you also, with your examination of them, notice that some of the books do seem to have kind of footnotes in, so you have now become familiar with Payne's handwriting. So that is also a potential bonus. Do you want to try and take any of these books?
I have room for one, if one is a gear slot, or if I can find two smaller tomes to fit in a gear slot.
One book will be a gear slot. Don't forget, you can always abandon stuff if you find better stuff.
Yeah.
You know, the Doe did say that you could keep anything that you find. They're not interested in anything other than the journal itself. So just note down a book on anatomy. It's not magical, but you know, the Upholsterers Guild, especially with the book that you've chosen, it doesn't deal with chiromancy. So, you know, you could find either a student or even a doctor that might pay some good coin for this text.
If I can find one with the doctor's handwriting in it, I would keep one of those.
Perfect.
So
Yeah,
footnoted.
absolutely. That is not a problem, and that is your turn done, and we move to Gideon.
I suppose Gideon is going to gather up the gunpowder, or whatever
Okay.
it is.
So there's two ways of doing this. You can just carefully do it over time, or if you want to make it very safe in your pack, you're going to have to give us a roll. It's completely up to you. There is the off chance that, you know, if you get unlucky and something hits your pack, it might cause it to spark. It does look volatile, but you can just give us a roll if you want to see if you can secure it safely.
I suppose I will give it a go. What kind of roll would you like?
This will obviously be dexterity, but I'm more than happy to argue that you could use anything perhaps other than charisma.
I mean, I
Like
can't
talk
speak
to the gunpowder.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, that's nice. A 19. Absolutely no problem. You scoop it all up. You've got basically like it's a little powder keg, a little flask of gunpowder, not a glass flask, kind of a leather sort of pouch. It's secure. This, in effect, could act like a bomb if you wanted to use it. It does take one gear slot up though. Now that you've got it secure with that 19 roll, I'm more than happy for you to be able to put some rag in or some kind of fuse so you could light it and throw it, basically. Very good. And then we move across to Hector.
Hector is just going to stay at the door
Watching.
but the others in the room can hear his foot's tapping on the ground impatiently in that sort of impatient way.
Yep. Perfect. I think it's worth rewarding you with. Do we have a random encounter? There we go. I just need to find my dice roll page again. There we go.
Maybe you could just not find it, and we could just not have a random encounter.
I can do that. Unfortunately, you can't hear anything. Nothing seems to be sort of approaching at the moment. Either this thing that you destroyed often made lots of noise and smashed things up, or perhaps the words that Gideon said have made them sort of think that something else is going on. Who knows? But at the moment you are not disturbed. Okay, so you've thoroughly searched this room now, really. There doesn't seem to be anything else of any interest. I'm more than happy for you to spend much time walking around this room and burn your torchlight. But that is your decision to make. So that was Hector, so we move to Ellie now.
Are there any other, just remind me, any other openings in this room besides the door we moved
it's just
through?
completely enclosed.
Okay.
There's no entrances or exits. And the searching that you've done would have uncovered any kind of secret doors. So you're fairly confident that there's nothing else of any interest here.
Fine. And then the room that we were in where we fought the Igor, am I correct in remembering there was something away to the west?
That's right. There's just a simple sort of passageway leading to the west. It carries on along the west, and then there's a passageway going north,
which is where we came from.
Which is where you came from. Absolutely.
Okay. Ellie will break off to the west and just kind of get to the edge of the torchlight and say, "Come on!" And she's trying to be stealthy, so she'll just try and creep ahead of the shadows.
Okay. No one is technically aware of you and didn't start in the line of sight or anything, so you move like the shadows. Perfect. Then we move to Valrond.
Also recognising Hector's keeping of time. it is time to thump him on the shoulder as I pass him on the way out, and moving, and head towards the edge of the light, making sure that Ellie doesn't find herself alone in the darkness.
Yeah, that makes sense. Then move to Gideon. You have a lit candle and a torch. The candle's in the candelabra.
Okay. Making a point not to move too quickly, Gideon's going to casually wander out, making sure there's time for a few extra taps before he wanders over.
Wow, baiting Hector. Okay, that is fine. And Hector, you'll go. Gideon seems to be dawdling.
As Gideon's going, yes, he will. As Gideon moves out of the room, he's just going to tap the candelabra with the butt of his spear as he passes by, hoping it rolls off the table and up against the bookcases. There should be nothing left of Payne.
Okay, I mean it's cinematic, which I love, and if it's your intention, I'm more than happy for a dice roll to be done here, or I'm happy for you to spend one of your luck points to automatically make this happen.
Oh, I'll quite happily roll. I'm not particularly bothered. It's just a cinematic thing. That's
No. You don't think such a cinematic thing is worth spending one of your 4 luck points?
No, I might need them later for something that's actually important.
Damn! I'm going to let you have it anyway. I tried to do it. You kind of knock it over, and I do like the imagery of that.
We'll say it takes a while.
Yeah. But you know that this building, this underground building, is stone. It's not going to cause you any kind of problems. So you know that you are relatively safe with just burning the books here. Okay, and I'm assuming you move out and join the rest of them.
Following
Perfect.
After.
So the light catches up with you. It doesn't necessarily reveal your space, Ellie. You have a choice now. You can carry on to the west, or you can head back to where these brain jars might have been fetched from.
Took me a little while to set up that trap, so I'm going to suggest we make full use of it and carry on to the west. So
Okay.
She'll sneak on ahead with her bow drawn.
Okay.
An arrow knocked, just in case.
So we're going to do the... It's okay, I need to call up these here. We're going to do the sort of the rallying. I don't know whether they call it rallying in Shadowdark, but fundamentally you're all moving together now for a moment or two, rather than just have everybody say, well, I'm moving forward, I'm moving forward, I'm moving forward. It makes sense. You're taking care, you're trying to be quiet. I've taken all of that on board.
I'm looking for any tripwires laid across our path.
Yeah. Absolutely. Fortunately, so it seems, this was a working facility, so it hasn't yet degenerated into just a lair for monstrosities. So you don't notice, certainly at the moment, any kind of sort of traps or anything else. Eventually, though, moving forward, the light kind of behind you a little bit, we'll pick up initiative again with you, Ellie, because you're kind of taking point, but from the shadows, if you see what I mean. You do notice, as the light begins to spill in a little way, another chamber directly ahead of you to the west, the direction you're going. And there is a terrible chemical smell coming from here, much stronger than the previous room. You can also hear the same guttural language and chittering that you heard when you first entered this place. You think there's more of the smaller monster mashed type of goblinoid creatures perhaps in this chamber. You don't think they have noticed the light at the moment, because you said you were moving forward cautiously. So we're going to re-enter that initiative sequence now. So that is what you notice. It is up to you to take your action and do what you
So
want to
it's
do.
just this door directly in front of us. There's nothing else.
It's not a door. It's just it
Sorry.
opens up into another
Just
room.
that's fine. So there's no branches. It's a straight shot.
That's right. Yeah.
I think we've got company, Gideon. And she'll go ahead and melt to the back.
Okay.
Like-
Yeah. It's just like perfect. You take your move and you move back, and then we move to Val.
Val would approach the threshold to this opening into the chamber,
Okay.
readied and in defense of herself, waiting to
Okay.
see what happened next.
Okay, you are now backlit, and it doesn't sound like you're using any kind of stealth. You hear sort of this guttural language as they. I'm going to give the benefit of the doubt here to what Gideon did previously. So what I'm going to do for this is I'm going to roll a not a random thing, but I'm going to do a reaction check.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to be 2d6, and we're going to see how they sort of react to you appearing. It seems that they perhaps have communicated with each other previously. You don't think these are the same ones. You didn't hear them move past you. So this will be 2d6, and I'm going to add the charisma modifier of Gideon to this. So let's do this.
Let's roll high.
So that is a 6, and what's your charisma modifier?
It is +4.
Okay, so that is a 10. So this means that you don't know what this means. I know what it means. I'm not going to tell you. But you hear them begin to sort of look and move towards you. They are now in initiative, but we haven't rolled for combat initiative at the moment. So that is you, Val. We move to Gideon now.
Okay, Gideon's going to walk forward into the room and... Okay, well, I'll walk forward into the room and see... What do I see once I walk in?
Yeah, now the light, it kind of almost like a tide moves past you, Val, kind of illuminating the view in front of you. Gideon, you move forward as well. Everybody else can see now past them into this chamber. You can see it's quite a large chamber, much larger than the previous one you were in. And there are large, or what was large, vats of what... made of wood, obviously containing chemicals, very much kind of the type of vats that you perhaps would see that people that die. It's that kind of thing. These large circular vats. Many of them have been smashed now, and the chemicals that have spilled out, which isn't dye, is now pooling on the floor. There are 3 of these hideously mashed together creatures, all of the same goblinoid kind of ancestry. The light glinting off their strange features. It becomes somewhat confusing as you're not quite sure where exactly to look when something's got multiple sets of eyes around their head. You kind of try and look into their eyes, but it's very disorientating. Some of them have got mouths on the side of their face. One has one in the center of its stomach. They have a number of limbs, but a varying number of limbs, ranging from 1 through to 5 or 6. Some of their legs are arms, and some of their arms are legs. Pitiful, really. Some of them seem to be brandishing, though, what would be considered a weapon similar to the ones that you met before. but they're not making any direct hostile move towards you at the moment. There is a door that exits this room to the south, and with the light spraying over it, there's something unusual about the door. Not the door itself, but there's something that you can't quite pace with the light source that you've got at the moment. It would require a little bit more of attention, and your attention is most definitely drawn to these creatures at the moment. So that is your move, Gideon.
So I'll do a sweeping look around the area, quick glance at these 3 creatures. Looking past them as though they don't really mean much to me, I'm going to point in the direction of 2 of them and bark, "Guard the corridor. There may be company coming." Glance at the other one, say, "You, follow us."
Okay. They are curious, but you are not necessarily in charge. I do need a roll here. It's not going to be as severe as the first time you've turned up, but I think we're going to need a DC 13 charisma, please. The dice are definitely with you tonight. 11 plus 4, that's a 15, I believe.
This is.
They kind of pitifully sort of move past you, kind of sniffing at the rest of you, and move down the corridor. The one that you said to come with you sort of cowers. It's almost as if he's scared of something.
Okay.
So that is your go. You have defused this situation, sent some off, and you've got one of them with you at the moment. We move to Hector.
Seeing only the one exit out of the room, this distant doorway, Hector's going to sort of straighten himself up, hold his shield in front of him, look very imperious, and sort of march over there. And this sort of, if he passes the goblin, still he's like, "Out of the way, minion! We're on Payne's business."
It cowers back,
along.
sort of squeaking. You definitely have proved to be the apex predators here. Ellie,
saying much.
you'll go.
I'll creep up to the doorway.
Okay.
Kind of get the lay of this room.
Yeah, absolutely. Now that you're closer to the door with the light that you've got, it's apparent what is strange. There was some kind of glinting or glistening around the door frame, and as you get there and look at it, you can kind of see the door has been sealed with wax. It's basically got this wax crust right around the door.
Can I make any sense of that in terms of things that I would know about thief trap? Or does it look like, why the heck would anybody do that?
It looks like it's been jury-rigged. It doesn't look like this is the natural state of this door. It looks very much like these critters have done it. It's kind of melted and pushed, and it must have taken, a dozen candles to do this. And you can see that there's globules of wax. It's not pretty or done with any kind of finesse. In terms of your being a thief, you know that wax would hermetically seal the room, so one would assume maybe gas or maybe liquid or something.
So it looks more like they're keeping something out rather than...
Yeah,
okay. And is there anything else in this room in terms of like the source of the smell?
The smell's coming from the puddling and the mixing together of all of the things. What you do notice is there's a particular sort of marking on the floor that seems to have come out of these vats and sort of coalesced in the middle, and it seems to have sort of flowed underneath the door with examining it like the way that you're examining it.
We should turn around and go the other way, guys. I'm not sure the book's here.
Okay, that is your go, Ellie, and we move to Val.
Yeah, hearing Ellie describe what she finds at the door and visibly recognizing that that's designed to keep something on the other side of it, again, I will slowly step my way back out of this chamber, I believe, before whatever's behind there makes its way through.
Okay. So you seem to back out of the room, Gideon.
Yep, I'll start moving back.
Okay. So you move back into the corridor and then move to Hector.
Yeah, Hector sort of stands and looks at the door for a moment. In that, one can almost not resist wanting to investigate, but everyone else is going that way, and more importantly, the light's going with them. So Hector's going to follow along.
This is
Absolutely.
not a door for the kicking, Hector.
Oh no, you get that. What you do is you get a little blade or a pin, and you poke it through the wax just to see what comes out.
Oh, the door itself would be easily opened. Breaking a wax seal is not an issue.
Oh, no, it's just. I would explain this as we're going
Yeah.
back.
Yeah.
It's just to get a sample to see if it is it a gas that comes out or a liquid, Because obviously, if you
Absolutely.
kick the door down, and he would explain,
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, interesting. And then we move to Ellie.
Ellie's beating a rapid retreat from that door.
Okay. So you return, and once again with you, Ellie, one assumes you're going to move forward. The only other route, rather than through this southern door, is back the way you came, back into the chamber. And there were two passageways. There was the slimy trail that comes from the east, and there was a slightly larger passageway to the west. And you make your retreat. Your newfound colleague, are you commanding him to carry on following you? He's just loping along at the moment.
Shall we keep him with us, or do you think our business with him's finished and he should go guard the corridor?
why don't we ask him what's behind the door?
Shot.
Give it a go.
Okay. This is an interesting one. It does have a degree of intelligence. It's certainly understood you. So I suppose, Val, it is your go, but are you going to say anything, or are you just going to... You've had this conversation, you're going to let Gideon ask this? Okay, so we move
Let's
around
find out
it,
more.
and it's kind of like dribble coming out of one of his mouths, which is unfortunately sort of slopping down into the other mouth that is just below it. Yes.
What is beyond the sealed door?
I'm Dr. Payne. He is where he mixes the things for his work. The barrels broke and things mixed together, and something went through under the door. Not nice. Burnt. Many of us. We put wax in. Clever. We put wax in. Stop it coming back out.
Very clever.
Yeah. Seems to be very excited when you call him very clever.
Was the room flooded, or was it just the floor?
No. The goop from the vats spilt out and mixed, and from it bubbled a thing, An oozy thing. Burnt many of us. But went underneath door and we sealed it in.
Dear. Okay.
Did you do good?
Yes, you did very good.
Be good.
I'll pat it on the head.
Which one? Both of them.
Both.
Fair enough. Okay, so I think, you can carry on questioning it, but we'll move to Hector to see whether Hector wants to do anything.
I'm just gonna move down. I've gotten a little bit turned around, perhaps in the passages and all that. I don't have a map out of character.
No one has a map.
That's all right. But I will sort of move. Hector will move through the passages until we come to some new ground that we haven't traveled, and I will wait for the party.
Okay. Are you leaving the light?
I'm being the one with the shield and the most hit points. I'm gonna push the edges of it because if anything is there, I want to be the first one to encounter it.
Okay, yeah. So again, you take guard, but just to clarify, you haven't stepped into the Shadowdark.
No.
Okay, good. Then we move to Ellie.
Yeah, I'll and get back, and my intention is to get back and dismantle the trap that I set.
Yeah, you
to
have
allow
to
us
go all the way
move
back
safely
there
through.
anyway. Don't need to roll. I mean, I know you set it up and it was quite a high DC, but you set it up so it's easy for you to take apart. It takes a little bit of time, obviously. Excellent. And then we move to Val.
Val also returning to that first central chamber through the passage that we came down.
Yeah.
Passing Ellie as she carefully dismantles her trap, make sure I don't kick it by accident,
Perfect.
and find myself on Hector's shoulder before too long.
Yep. So you kind of rally together again, and we move to Gideon.
Gideon, one wants to have a look at his torch and see how it's burning.
It's spitting, and it's not got a lot of time left. I mean, you can waste that, you could extinguish it and just light another one if you want. Lose a few precious minutes on the one that you've got, but at least you're not going to be plunged into darkness.
Following the rather poor circumstances of the last one going out, I think that is what I'm going to be doing.
Okay, so that is your action, and I will, very nicely, reset the timer. You will never know unless you're all kind of timing it at the same time. Never know. We'll start a new timer. Perfect. So you head back and you eventually get back to not the original entry chamber, but the one where you kind of saw the chemical trail coming from the east. Here you can see the passage goes to the north, which leads out of the workshops, goes to the south where you've just come from. The slime trail comes from the east, and there is a slightly larger passageway going off into the gloom to the west. Sorry, so that would be you, Hector. Where are you going to push on to?
From the sounds of it, it's the west that we haven't explored yet, so I'm going to head in that direction.
Okay. Once again, moving together, assuming you don't want to split up, you find your way moving along a darkened corridor, pretty much the same as the previous corridors that you've been through. Manufactured, flagstoned. You're obviously checking for any kind of traps or anything else, being cautious. Eventually it comes to an end, and in the southern wall is quite a large door. This door slightly more unusual in the fact that it seems to be reinforced with metal, heavily reinforced with metal, and there is an obvious lock in it.
I will, seeing this door locked, I will gesture to Gideon. Goes, your turn.
Perfect. We'll come to Gideon in a minute. We move to Ellie.
Moving up to the door. I know it's derivative, but I'm frail as all get out. I'm gonna have just a little look. Does it look like there's any spikes gonna pop out of the keyhole?
Okay.
Does it look like there's any
Perfect.
rocks falling from the ceiling?
You have a fairly good light at the moment, and you look around. This time, there doesn't seem to be any kind of trap. It's quite obviously locked, though. You know, you cautiously check for the traps first. Doesn't seem to be anything like that, but yeah, it's definitely a very stout door that is always, being a thief, a good indication of the direction you need to go in.
Absolutely. And can I just have a good sniff? Do I smell mouldering parchment? Do I smell the iron of blood? Do I smell
That
any
is a very good question.
stink of monster mash?
A stink of monster mash. It's not as chemically as the previous room. From all accounts, we're speaking to the monster mashed goblin and trying to get it. You kind of think that they have separated the alchemical processes in one chamber with perhaps something else in this chamber. There's a subtle smell, but it's nowhere near as bad as previously done. So you give the rest of the crew
the
all
all clear.
Perfect. We move to Val.
Having both recognised Ellie has confirmed the door untrapped, but yet very locked. I await Gideon to come with the keys, so I make my way to the door and just prepare for what might happen next.
Perfect. And then we move rapidly on to you, Gideon.
Okay, I'm gonna go in and have a quick glance at the lock.
Yep.
Scan with keys, I think, to most likely, and try and unlock it.
Okay. The key does exist. Takes you a few sort of looks and tries, but you are again a thief and are familiar with such mechanisms. Relatively rapidly, you find the right key and you put it into the door. You going to open the door?
No, I'm going to unlock it and step back.
Okay, you unlock it, step back, and Hector.
Rolling in his eyes, Hector's going to push the door open.
Okay, the door does indeed open, and it isn't trapped as Ellie did, and it has been unlocked because of the key that Gideon's done. But that is where we are going to leave it for the moment. We're going to leave you in suspicion till next time of what lies beyond the door. So I want to say a big thank you to our cast. Hope you've enjoyed that. It's been a very interesting dynamic I found in terms of taking it in terms, but you have progressively kind of thoroughly searched a number of these chambers, uncovered some things, and decided to leave it well alone. Interesting, but totally understandable. You've made more friends, which is also really good fun. So we'll do a quick round table to say our goodbyes. Malcolm, how did you find it? Any kind of highlights, any kind of interesting bits, anything that you wished you had or hadn't have done?
No, really good sessions. No, with just a few interesting moments. I am so glad that we avoided blowing ourselves up.
Very close, very close. And Kyle?
Enjoyable session. I'm very much looking forward to finding a use for this gunpowder.
Well, yeah, that might come very, very rapidly, or maybe not. Brian?
Good session. Some interesting narrative moments. really, really hoping that whatever Gideon uses that gunpowder on isn't going to blow up in my face.
Well,
Who knows? And last but not least, Fliss.
Andy, I have to say, I'm really enjoying playing a character where I can say I'm looking for traps and you're not making me roll for it, because as you'll know from our other game, I'm not always the best at the rolls that we need, but I'm always deeply suspicious. So.
Yeah. No, I mean it's very interesting. I'm trying to find my place with Shadowdark, and unless I've totally misinterpreted the rules as written, is that if you describe what you're doing and you describe it well, it works unless you're under pressured situations, and you get the rewards for it. Like literally, had you not said I'm searching for that trap, it would have gone off and it would have been fairly devastating. But the fact you did meant you just avoided it. It's quite a tense situation, or I would say it wasn't tense because you wasn't aware of it. But when you realised what could have happened, it suddenly makes it more interesting because you are on a knife's edge, sort of edge. Anything that you do could have major repercussions. I've very much enjoyed this session, and I'm very much looking forward to what is going to happen next. Thank you very much for watching, everybody, and staying with us. We're trying to do shorter sessions now to make it sort of little bit sort of friendlier for time, but we are also trying to do it on a weekly basis. So watch out next week for part 3. In the meantime, it's a big goodbye from me, and everybody wave. Goodbye everybody.